You want to report me to the police because I'm a journalist? Do you understand in this country we have a free press? So something quite crazy just happened. A guy from Israeli Aerospace Industries followed us down the road, demanding to see our passes to show we're journalists, and so he's going to report us to the police. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm at the Farnborough Airshow in the English countryside, where people are enjoying the sunshine and watching pilots perform tricks. But behind me, inside those hangars, arms firms are doing deals, and this year, controversially, they've invited to the table 3 of Israel's largest arms companies, despite the genocide in Gaza. This is the first time since that conflict began that Declassified has been granted press access to an arms fair like this. And we want to go and talk to those companies and see why they've been allowed in. First on our list was Elbit Systems UK, a subsidiary of Israel's largest arms firm. I wanted to see if they were marketing equipment that might be covered by the UK government's partial ban on arms exports to Israel. So I've just found the stand for Elbit Systems, Israel's largest arms company, and they're displaying things on this screen behind me that's quite clearly been used in Gaza and tested on Palestinians. There's a sign there saying they're displaying air-to-ground munitions. This is the kind of stuff that should be covered by the arms embargo. They're also showing footage of their drones, one of which looks very similar to the Hermes drone which the Israeli military used to kill 3 British military veterans in Gaza in 2024. We've interviewed one of the families of those victims who are absolutely devastated by the loss of their son. So I want to go and ask Elbit staff whether they'll apologise to those families and also the parents of all the children in Gaza that have been killed using their equipment. Let's see how this goes. I'm Phil Miller, I'm a journalist. Is it possible to speak to your CEO today, Martin Fawcett?
He's not here.
He's not here today.
I'm afraid we haven't
Okay.
got any availability.
Okay. It's just we spoke to some fathers of British military veterans, and their sons were killed in Gaza by an Elbit drone, the Hermes 350, and it looks like you've been displaying that on the screen today.
There's nothing we can do that is going to make you satisfied, so you're not going to get an interview.
But is it not a bit insensitive to be displaying drones that have been used to
You're very
kill
misinformed,
British
so
military
you should
veterans?
walk away.
Are you disputing that an Elbit drone killed British military veterans in
You're
Gaza?
misinformed, you should
The
walk
Hermes
away.
350 drone?
It's fine. To move on.
You're denying that it killed British military veterans in Gaza? You're not going to apologise to their families?
I have no comment to say.
Nothing to say at all?
Nothing to say, sir. Sorry, no.
And how many children in Gaza have Elbit's drones killed?
I need to ask you a question, sir. Please move on.
Why don't you want to answer questions from the press about that? You're proudly displaying the company's equipment. So we just tried to speak to Elbit there about whether they'd apologise for one of their drones being used to kill British military veterans in Gaza. There's obviously lots of British veterans here at the show today. Immediately they tried to get us to move away from the stand. They didn't want to comment on it whatsoever. I think that shows their attitude towards British military veterans and also the children of Gaza who've been killed by Elbit's drones, which we also asked them about. And again, their immediate response to the free press was to try to remove us from the stand. While Elbit Systems UK argues it is one step removed from its Israeli parent company, the same cannot be said for some of the other firms that I was spotting at Farnborough, which are directly owned by the Israeli state. I've just spotted another Israeli state-owned arms company here at Farnborough Airshow. It's called IAI, Israeli Aerospace Industries. They're a major player in the Israeli arms industry. I'm going to go and see if they'll let me look around their chalet.
Can I help you?
Yeah, hi, I'm a journalist. Is it possible to have a look around?
No.
No? No press allowed? Or
You have an appointment here?
no? Can I make one? Or
And with who? With who? Who
with
you
your
want to-
press people?
press
know?
people who you want to speak?
Just ask about the company.
You can
Google.
check in Google.
So is that, you just think all journalists should just use Google?
If you want, you can check Google.
Okay. But I mean, is this an Israeli state-owned company?
You can check it in Google.
Yeah?
Yes.
And you've seen what the UN said about genocide in Gaza? being committed by Israel? Why is a state-owned company allowed here in Britain? You don't think Israel's committing genocide in Gaza? No comment? Okay. Do you not like the free press? You don't want journalists to ask you questions?
Easy.
So I think his silence speaks volumes there. They don't want to answer any questions from the press about what their company does, its links to the Israeli government, how their weapons are being used for the genocide in Gaza. It seems like there's a pattern emerging here with the Israeli companies not wanting to speak to the press and also taking photos of us, not sure what purposes. Another thing that's quite unusual about these companies is the extra security they have around the stands. You don't see that on the other armed companies displaying here. So it seems like they're very nervous and that they have something to hide.
IAI's security then began taking photos of our camera crew, even though they were clearly identified as media.
You heard your name?
Yes.
No free press?
But that was just the start.
So something quite crazy just happened. A guy from Israeli Aerospace Industries followed us down the road, demanding to see our passes, our press passes, to show we're journalists, and so he's going to report us to the police. I asked what crime have we done, all we did was ask questions, and he just said he wanted to report us to the police. Absolutely unbelievable. Just wanted to follow up on what you were saying. You want to report me to the police because I'm a journalist? Like what? So why do you want to report me to the police?
I'm not.
You're not now. You just said you were. You just said you wanted my name so you can report me to the police. You just said that. So now you're lying as well. Do you understand in this country we have a free press? Journalists are allowed to ask companies questions.
Ask?
We have. You didn't want to answer them, so we
I'm
left.
asking you to leave.
From this road.
I'm asking you that you
We-
don't speak with us.
We were leaving, and then you followed us down the road, your colleague, demanded to see our passes, and said you wanted to report us to the police.
It was not even clear which police force he wanted to call, British or Israeli, especially as we later ran his image through facial recognition, and he appears to have worked for Israel's equivalent of MI5, the Shin Bet. IAI's secluded chalet was not the company's only presence at Farnborough. It also had a stall inside one of the main exhibition tents, right next to a UK government stand. Although IAI was only displaying its satellites here, the company makes drones, which have played a pivotal role in Gaza. Of course, Israeli arms firms are not the only controversial guests at Farnborough. There was an array of British, European and American firms which make parts for the fighter jets that Israel has used to pummel Gaza, like Leonardo, whose trainer aircraft teach aspiring Israeli fighter pilots. I wasn't the only journalist having difficulty talking to these companies. Ian Overton had the same reaction when he tried to talk to Rafael, another Israeli state-owned arms factory, which made the Spike missile believed to have killed the British military veterans in Gaza.
Dave says no. We're not allowed in.
Ian, what happened when you just tried to go in to this chalet behind me?
Well, they completely shut it down. They were like, you're not coming in. They wouldn't give us names of anyone we could speak to see if we could get in. They suddenly became very monosyllabic. They went into their building and then started filming us from inside outside, so as if we were being surveyed. And similarly, I asked Elbit Systems if we could have an interview with them, and they weren't having any of it. So yes, they're here, but they're not letting on what they're selling, what sort of deals are being struck, and how much money they're going to be making out of this week.
Ian, you did well to get as much conversation going with Elbit as you did. They very quickly shut down my line of questioning. But interestingly, when I asked them about the Hermes drone that had been used to kill British aid workers in Gaza, They started saying I was misinformed. They tried to deny that that was an Elbit drone responsible. And when I pushed further, they just said, well, no, you need to get away from the stand. We're not going to talk to you about this. It felt like they had something to hide there.
I mean, I think the very fact that they presented themselves as Elbit Systems UK, and the moment you went in, people were speaking Hebrew, people were obviously from Israel. There were no Brits inside that inner sanctum. Why would you classify yourself as an Elbit UK company, which has repeatedly denied links to Elbit Israel, and yet there it is, plain as day? I mean, it just feels as if they're using obfuscation, they're claiming one thing when another thing happens. What is truth in their eyes? I mean, we've got so many questions we want to ask them, and then their response is denialism and deflection. And I think the real question has to be to British ministers as to why they allow Israeli firms to be peddling their goods on UK soils in the face of repeated embargoes, the UN representing what happened in Gaza as a genocide. I think it's a much wider question as to why we continue this military and industrial engagement with Israel.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very much like from the video this was equipment they tested in Gaza on Palestinians. Last year at another arms fair in London, declassified wasn't allowed in, but the Israeli State Pavilion was banned from being at that fair. But now they're acting like this is, they're able to come back and do business as if nothing's happened.
Absolutely. I mean, what we've seen is the UK's imports of arms from Israel has increased by 10,500% since 2023 to the current day. It's as if the trauma and horror of Gaza has had no impact on business here. The checkbooks are open. There's lots of businesses and meetings being had. We've seen people going both into Raphael and into Elbit, and I think it's as if there is no link made between what these systems were trained to do in Gaza, the Palestine laboratory, and what we're buying, both as the UK and the wider NATO countries are buying from Elbit and Raphael, which are weapons that ultimately have been linked to what the UN has classified as a genocide.
So I've spent most of the day at the Farnborough Airshow now talking to lots of people. Many of the stall holders were very friendly, but it was very noticeable as soon as we went near the Israeli arms firms and said we were journalists and asked the most basic journalistic questions, immediately we got a very aggressive overreaction, threatening even to report us to the police. I've covered lots of arms fairs like this, and that is quite an extraordinary reaction. We're filming this on the day that Andy Burnham enters Downing Street and becomes Prime Minister. He said that Labour had got their response wrong on Gaza and been too slow to act, and yet here we see Israeli arms firms are still being allowed into events like this. It remains to be seen whether he will really take action against arms sales to Israel. At Declassified, we want to keep investigating who's arming Israel amid the genocide in Gaza, and we can only do that with your support. So if you can, please go to declassifieduk.org/join, where you can find out more about becoming a member. Thanks for watching.